All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
And don't forget the Rookettes. Rookettes.
We got caught joking around when we first come on here. We got nabbed. Episode number 214, Peter, 214. Today's episode is called Little Known, Unique, Creative Real Estate Exit Strategies for Extraordinary Returns.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of exiting, Bill.
Right?
Yeah, you should never enter unless you know how to exit. Like the deer or mountain lion that was in my yard last night.
I thought you were giving me advice on the birds and the bees.
Oh, yeah. Like we could or even would or should. Now, I came home to the barrel knocked over and my wire fence trampled and knocked down. So it wasn't a raccoon. It was like a deer or something.
Of course.
It didn't know how to exit. Do not enter unless you know how to exit. Or you'll trample fences and wreck and drop garbage all over.
Point taken.
That's all I'm going to say. You take over now.
All right. So, here we go. Episode 214. Little known, unique, creative real estate exit strategies for extraordinary returns. Ron LeGrand says, the less I do, the more I make. Question is, what does that mean?
I don't know, Bill, but I've heard that. I'm doing less lately, and I have less money troubles than ever. I don't know. I guess Ron LeGrand's working for me.
There you go.
Thanks, Ron. Keep talking, Bill.
How is it possible to make more and work less? Answer, perfect strategy.
Oh.
It is also well known you make your money when you buy real estate through the negotiating and collect it when you sell.
Yeah.
And in these amazing and informative podcasts that we do right here on this channel, we spend a lot of time talking about our acquisition strategies. In other words, acquiring properties. And not enough time talking about our exit strategies. In today's episode, we're going to take you from fantasy land and theory to some of our favorite success stories that will teach you some little known and unique creative exit strategies for extraordinary returns. And because you will hear what happens in our deals, you can now work less and make more by example. Taking the hard time learning out of the mix and struggling with reinventing the wheel to make money. Believe it or not, this is not one little trick for one exit strategy, but simple tweaks to what you already know so you don't have to apply new, unknown work. So let's get to it.
Okay, sounds good.
To start off with, I have a little bit of housekeeping I have to do because I've been instructed by the powers to be. Her name is Emma.
Yeah. Hi, Emma.
Right, so I would like to dedicate this podcast to Johnny, who's one of my students. Johnny's been on very many of my Zooms and stuff. He's not a coaching client. He's just a guy out there that follows me quite a bit. And he asked that I clarify this topic that we're going to talk about today.
Oh.
So the backstory is we're on a live Zoom meeting last week or the week before, and he asked for a podcast on wholetailing. Which we're going to cover. Okay.
Yep.
Also, I would like to tell you all about, tell all of our listeners about I'll do that again. Also, I would like to tell all the other listeners, if you've not gone to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff and downloaded one of my documents or watched one of my videos, you're probably not on my email list. And when you are on that list, you'll get amazing tips and tricks, often massive discounts on my stuff, and most important, invitations to the surprise Zoom calls where I actually get on Zoom live and help guys. So like this call that Johnny was on, I actually did an emergency call, and I think I spent 90 minutes on Zoom just answering random questions about real estate investing for guys that feel like they're stuck or don't have any help, and it was no charge. The only charge is that you're on my email list.
Yeah.
You know, so the only people that get that benefit are the people that are on my email list. Plus,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Plus, I do special emails for my email list to do one-on-one 45-minute coaching interviews, and I do that as well. I'll send them to a link that we have that does one-on-one. It's called Calendly, and they'll make an appointment with me, and I'll spend 45 minutes to an hour just kind of talking through with them, finding out what's going on, and see what I can do to help them. Okay. Now, you know, Peter, because you're around me more often than not these days because I'm in Florida and I'm out here in the Netherlands by myself, winging it. Down here in Florida, 105 degree temperature. Yeah, it's nice. Anyways,
what is humid? What is humid?
Yeah, the air is dry. Yeah, okay. Anyways, you're welcome, Johnny. So, anyways, my point is that I typically get around $500 an hour when I'm working on consulting and that kind of stuff. So for me to get on these webinars, it is a value. And I'm not saying that trying to get you to come on them. I'm just saying it is a value because if I do these individually, if you wanted to do this, schedule an appointment with me and take me out of my regular schedule, it would be $500 an hour. So next, I'd like to announce that we have made some major changes to the podcast. And I realized last week when we ended that I haven't announced these, and this is where Emma's coming in because she wants me to make sure you guys know this. If you go on to any description for a podcast, there's a link to our free stuff page there. So if you're on a cell phone listening right now, just go to the description of the podcast, or wherever you are, just go to the description of the podcast and scroll down to the bottom of the description section, and we've put a link in there. And that link will take you right to the page that has over 25 free trainings, tools, and documents. Okay, so
Bill, does that say something at the bottom? Is there like a word? What does it say?
I don't remember. It's like go here to get some free goodies or something like that. And then it has a link.
But they'll see it. Like go to okay.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Good.
Let me just
While you're doing that, I wanted to comment. As an educator, what you're doing is really, really vital when you throw those little emergency meetings together, because anybody learning anything, when you hit a question like, wait a minute, what do I do about that? You're stuck. And it's hard to move ahead.
That's right.
And it's not whether it's important or unimportant. If you don't know, you're stuck.
Right.
So what you're doing when you do those is vital to get somebody moving along. It's like a chain. You got a weak link, you're screwed. If it's broken, so what you do is really, really helpful.
And I do them very often.
I have you. If I have a question, hey, Bill, blah, blah, blah. People can't do that. So that's why I never get stuck. I get annoyed. I get like, damn it. But you get through it and you keep moving. But that's really important when you do that.
So let's talk about that for a quick second. This is not what the podcast is supposed to be about. But yesterday you texted me and you're trying to use Text Expander.
Yep.
Which we talked about a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Exactly to your point. So what did I text you back?
Yes.
And then what?
Then you sent me some links.
I said, I just made a bunch of new videos for my VA. How about if I send you the links?
Yeah.
Right. And I sent you the links, and I don't know if you watch them, but what you need is on those links.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So just to your point, now you're not stuck. So you were stuck maybe for an hour, but now you're going again and you have plenty of help. So having a mentor is important.
Do I need to download that, or do I already have it somewhere using yours? I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it's not even whether it's a big deal or a small deal. A question's a question, and it stops you. So I'm just saying it's really helpful when you do that. So folks, take advantage, get your questions answered.
So being on my email list, there's a lot of advantages. It's not just me trying to sell you something like most guys. Of course, there's going to be links on the bottom of the page that if you want to buy some of my courses, you can link on them. But I go through phases in the month, because when I'm doing the meetup, I'll sell the meetup so you get on the meetup, or, a lot of times I'll do emails about specific podcasts where you can go get a specific, I'll be talking about subject 2, and it's like, go listen to episode 169, and it completely explains about subject 2.
Yeah.
Right? And so lastly, we've changed the software we're using to actually stream. Thank you, Emma, and my coach, Will. And by the way, if you, my coach is I don't normally share his name, but I've done it twice and I'll do it this time. He's an amazing Facebook guy. So if you need any help with Facebook, his name is Will Irish. Just go into Facebook and type in Will Irish, and he's got a bunch of good stuff there. So that'll help you. So lastly, we've changed the software for these podcasts, which means right now we're live, and you can watch us record the actual podcast on Facebook or on YouTube. So right now while we're talking, there's a live stream on Facebook and there's a live stream on YouTube, which also means you can ask questions while you're on live. I have a dashboard up here in front of me. So if somebody types something into Facebook, I can see it. If somebody types something into YouTube, I can see it. So if there's questions, and if I can't answer the questions while we're doing it live, I'll just say something or type it back, and we'll make sure that we cover it someplace else, or I'll ask you to go to support or something like that. Okay. So we record every Thursday morning, about 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So all you need to do is go onto Facebook, type in Flipping Houses for Rookies, or go into YouTube and type in Flipping Houses for Rookies, and you'll find the live recordings. Then once we do the recordings, the geeks, it's actually Emma and a friend of mine, Ivan, and I have 2 VAs that will take these videos or take these recordings, and they put the intro and the exit on them, and they edit them. They don't edit what I say, but they just make them ready for podcast material, and then it goes into the podcast platform. And then on Monday morning, the podcast gets released for that week. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on here. All right, so of course, the last thing is I would be remiss to not ask you to subscribe to these channels. If you're on YouTube or Facebook or the podcast where you're listening on your podcast recorder. And of course, leave us reviews if you can. Okay. All right. Now that that's all over, I can tell Emma, done. I could tell Will, get off my back. Now that's all done. Let's get started with Johnny's question on what is wholetailing. Ready,
right.
Pita?
Yep. Wholetailing.
Wholetailing. You want to spell it?
Well, WHOLETAILING.
Good job.
I'm assuming it's my understanding comes from wholesaling and retailing combined. Is that right?
Yes, sort of. So wholetailing is a fairly new way of making money in the real estate investing industry. Okay. And it's different than wholesaling. It's actually a combination of wholesaling and the rehab retail or flipping strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So the tailing comes from the retail you're talking about, but it's not like retail, like you're going to buy a pretty house. It's got to be an ugly house.
Right. You're not selling a renovated house. You're selling an unrenovated house.
Yes. And we're going to cover all that before we get done here. So here's why it's so profitable. It is flipping without the hassles and the problems of and the large expense of a full-blown flip.
And all the time involved.
Yeah, time and the money and having to raise the capital and do the work and hire contractors and insurance and checking on the job every day and, you know, chasing contractors and chasing contractors and chasing contractors and chasing contractors and chasing. Oh, wait a minute. Because that's what you do all the time is chase the contractors.
Yeah, but my favorite part, come on, is still when there's a real problem that you weren't expecting, and you go, we look at each other and go, man, that's going to cost a lot of money. What do we do about that? And then we break to commercial.
Yeah, we don't do that. In other words, Pete, we buy it like we're going to flip it.
Mm-hmm.
We use all those formulas and closing techniques, right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead of fixing it, we do a lease option to sell it. Okay. Or at least that's, I mean, there's other ways of doing it, but this is the most common way. You use a lease option to sell it with our buyer and have them do the work.
Mm.
Okay. And because we got a deep discount due to the outdatedness, usually, or repairs that made it an ugly house instead of a pretty house, and assigned the repairs to the buyer so we make more profit.
Right.
But there are a few guidelines to make this work magically. All right. And here's a list. The house has to be livable.
Right. I was going to ask that because, you know, if you're renovating and not living in it, that's rough on the buyer. So you can live in it.
So it has to be livable. So I don't know how to verbalize this picture in people's mind, but probably the best way to do it is I think probate is a perfect lead generator for this type of strategy.
Mm.
Because mom and dad have lived there for 50 years and they didn't, I mean, the kitchen is completely functionable, but it's 1970s.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of like your house, Peter. It's got red shag rugs and, you know,
no, sir.
Got hippie signs hanging up in the corners. And, you know, the kitchen is a laminate kitchen from 1939.
My kitchen sucks. My kitchen is from the 80s, but I'll have you know, I bought a new rug. I got a new rug coming for the bedroom, and I am painting right now and buying new bedroom furniture, updating that. Kitchen's next.
Just busting your balls.
But it was funny. My mom's house should be the one that's all outdated, and it's a little bit. But I did a bunch in there. You know, I did a bunch in that one. But there's still like, no, that kitchen and the bathrooms. You know, paint and rugs is one thing, but no. So I know. I'm looking at that myself. I know what you mean exactly. But they can live in it.
They can live in it. So the kitchen and the bathrooms. Well, let's just keep going because I have that stuff in here. So number 2, it works perfectly for houses, like I said, like probate, where the kitchen's outdated, the bathroom's outdated, and they're completely functionable.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just that they're green or they're red or they're
pink. Come on, pink.
I was just going to say pink tiles in the bathroom with black strips around the top. And we only say that because in Meriden, Connecticut, it's the industrial age there still. And a lot of those houses were built like 1930s and 40s. And every house, it seems like every house in Meriden had a pink tile with across the top a black tile border. And I got to tell you, when I first started flipping houses, we were taking that tile out and putting new tile in.
Yeah.
And, you know, the necessity level is the mother of invention. I bought a couple houses and I was tight on the money. So thus I figured out how to, I didn't figure it out. It just kind of happened by accident. I had a guy paint the bathtub in another house, you know, the enamel paint. Yeah. I asked him if that worked on tile too. And he says, sure. I don't know why not. And you have to realize this is, I don't know, 15 years ago, right? And back then technology was not like now. Now you go to Home Depot and you buy a spray can and do it. You know what I mean? But back then you didn't do that shit. It was a whole, the guy had a compressor and he had a, you know, hazmat suit on and a mask with those big black things on it, you know, because
the filters. Yeah,
because it was, you know, it was nasty shit. And we had to evacuate the house for the day when he painted the tub. I mean, it was a whole thing, right? So we started spraying the tile.
Yeah. Just
because of the color. All right, number 3. House only needs like paint and carpet, some light repairs, like maybe floors or maybe some deck work or definitely appliances, right? That kind of stuff. Okay. So these are not rental properties. We're selling these on a rent to purchase. So I don't worry about if they take the old appliances out and put in their own appliances, right? Because if they leave, then the next person's going to do the same thing. So I'm not worried about having to buy appliances.
Yeah.
Or if you're really worried about that, just tell them leave the stove and, you know, or put the stove in the basement, or, you know, when you leave, you got to put it back, you know, that kind of stuff, right?
Oh, the old stuff? Put the old stuff back.
Yeah, if you want to make it functional when they leave, you know.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, every tenant buyer tells me they're going to buy the house, they're never leaving, and only 1 out of 3 do. So they can say what they want, but
Bill, you know what? When people tell me emphatically, "Oh, I'm never going to quit," and I don't even ask them, like, why are they thinking that? Because they're sure they can really pull it off, and they're trying to convince themselves.
How about this one? I'm really honest.
Oh, why
you don't have to worry about me? I'm really honest.
Why are you even bringing it up if it isn't?
There you go. Number 4.
Or this product will not rust.
Right?
Hey,
as far as I'm concerned, as a marketing guy, absolutely the best commercial I have ever seen, and I'm not going to remember the name of the product, is that seal-proof stuff where the guy cuts the boat in half. Yeah. And he paints Flex Seal. Yeah, Flex Seal.
I still got some of that hanging around.
Yeah. That is because honestly, the best advertising in the world is demonstration.
Right.
Now they got a new commercial I saw the other day, which is freaking awesome. He goes to a chicken coop and takes the wire off the chicken coop and forms it into a boat and then paints it with this Flex Seal. It puts a motor on it and drives it in the lake.
Chicken wire. There's a lot of spaces in chicken wire.
Well, he painted it with that Flex Seal and made a boat out of it. So no, Peter, we're not making a boat out of Flex Seal. We'll go buy a boat. Actually, we have a boat. We just never use it. Sitting in the side of my yard while I'm in Florida. All right. So let me catch up here. Number 4. If the house needs to, you know, replace like fixtures, hardware, lighting, that kind of stuff, and you would think, you know, that's no big deal. But I'm going to tell you something. There's been some houses I've had where you walk into the foyer, you know, and I'm not talking about elaborate houses. I'm talking about 100 houses, and the freaking chandelier. Remember that house in Plainville I had? You know, the chandelier is like it's 50 feet up. You know, because it's like a split level ranch, you know, and you got to get an extension ladder in there and you got to like get up there. I mean, changing the light fixture on that thing is not some simple task. Now, yeah, you know, you start going into the bathrooms and you start buying light fixtures in bathrooms, and you're not buying, you know, and anyhow, you're not buying $10 fixtures for the bathrooms, right? So it could add up. So I'm just saying that, you know, these are indicators that it's a good wholesale deal, right? The last one is a lot of houses need things like landscaping or maybe the driveway work, right? Pool problems, maybe a dated roof. You know, it's not leaking right now, but, you know, in 5 years, it's going to need a roof,
Yeah.
Right? This works perfectly for this type of investment. Okay?
Yep.
Now here's the magic. All right? Like I said, we buy this house expecting to do this work. Okay, so when you're buying this house, I want your head space to be in, I'm buying a flip. I need to fix this roof. I need to fix this landscaping. I need to fix this pool. I need to change that chandelier. I need to do all the things we're talking about. I need to put a new kitchen in, a new bathroom in. And I want you to do your math this way. I want you to make sure that this is how you're going to do it. Now, I've done this in many other podcasts, but I do $10 a square foot, $15 a square foot, $20 a square foot, $25 a square foot, $30 a square foot. And basically, it's these things we're going through. Like, if it just needs some cosmetic, like the yard work, maybe, shampoo rugs and stuff like that, it's $10 a square foot. If it needs to do all of that, plus a little bit more, like maybe you need to refinish the floor, then it's $15 a square foot. And if you need the kitchen or just the bathroom, one or the other, then it's $20 a square foot. If you're going to do the kitchen, the bathroom, you're going to do floors, carpet, landscaping, it's $25 a square foot. Then if you need to do like a furnace, all that stuff plus a furnace, then it's $30 a square foot. But then if you got to do like the furnace, do all that stuff, the furnace, maybe some windows, some siding, one of those, then it's $35 a square foot. If you got to do everything, roof, siding, windows, furnace, kitchen, bathroom, rugs, paint, yard work, all that stuff, and buy one big box of cigars, it's $40 a square foot. Okay. So
yeah, well, the cigars are part of the job. You got to show up with your sunglasses on, the cigar. You got to walk around and stare or glare at the contractors for a few minutes just to get their attention before you start yelling at them.
I never told you this, but there's a real purpose for cigars on a job.
Okay, go ahead.
It keeps the girls out.
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah. Keeps the girls out. Except for Jesse and Emma. They like cigar smoke because they grew up in all their life with it. And for them, it's actual pleasure moments for them because I always smoke cigars. So
they smell cigars and they think, Daddy.
Emma's boyfriend's like, when she comes home, he makes her take a shower because she's in the car with me and stinks like cigars. She goes, why? It smells good. Why would you want to do that?
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, the most common number I use when you're looking at any house, I teach this to all my coaching clients and everything, is $25 a square foot. That's after doing a lot of renovations, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of renovations. That's the most common number we use. So when I'm doing like my offer generator, in fact, the video I just made for my my new VA to do the offer generator, I usually use $10 a square foot on a pretty house just so I can do paint and carpets and anything that comes up. A garbage disposal that doesn't work or replace a dishwasher or something like that. Or I'll use $25 a square foot. I use one or the other. I don't tend to vary too much from those two numbers. Okay.
Right. But you'll know if it needs something else, you add it or subtract it.
Right.
It'll be obvious.
So here's the thing that I run into more often than I care to. And to me, I have a special word for it in the English language, but it's not polite.
Should I bleep it?
It's stupid. Stupidness. Okay. It's so stupid that people do this, but you can't tell them that because they don't want to be told they're stupid.
They think they're being smart and careful.
So when somebody's making an offer, when I'm making an offer on a house, right? The first thing I want to do is I want to get the agreement of the seller. Right? Because quite honestly, I've been to hundreds of closings and I've never seen a house at a closing signing documents.
No, they're kind of big and heavy.
Yeah. It's always a person. So I want to get through the people talk first. And then I'll go look at the house and make sure it qualifies. So if I say to you, Peter, I'll give you $140,000 for your house and I'll pay you $1,300 a month and I'll do it for 5 years.
Yep.
Right. And I come out to the house and the kitchen doesn't have a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just studs because you neglected to tell me that.
Yeah.
Do I still have to pay $140,000 for that house?
I don't think you signed anything on the phone.
You see what I'm saying? Even if I did sign something, it's going to be a loose agreement that I can change my mind. Or here's another common one. I decide I want to pay $140,000 for your house because you did a good job of selling me. Because realize there's only one of two things that can happen in any conversation between you and a seller.
Mm-hmm.
Either the seller convinces you that their ideas are right and you should do what they want, or you convince the sellers your ideas are right and you should do what you want.
Mm.
Those are the only two things that can happen in this conversation, right?
That's right.
So if the seller convinced you that the house is worth $200,000 and it's a really good neighborhood and yada yada yada, and you go out and you're driving out to this neighborhood and you're like, "What? This is in the middle of the ghetto," right?
Mm-hmm.
When you get there, you just say, "Hey, this is not what you told me," right? And you adjust.
Yeah.
So the stupidity is that people think when they talk, they want to be ethical. They don't want to lie to somebody. They don't want to tell them things that aren't true. But in the apartment building industry, right, or commercial real estate,
Mm-hmm.
apartment building meaning 30, 40, 50 units and above, okay, or commercial business, like retail stores and stuff like that. This is called retrading, right? That's when you say, I'll pay this amount of money, and then later on you go back and you retrade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you and I have just spent a bunch of money on this type of training, right? Tens of thousands of dollars on this type of training. And one of the most valuable things that I learned about that fits in this business is it's not considered retrading if the seller misinformed you from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's not considered retrading. Retrading is, Peter, I'm going to sell you my 1999 Mercedes Benz that has 109,000 miles on it.
Yep.
Right? And you get out and it's got 199,000 miles on it. That's not retrading. You just misinformed me.
Right.
Right. So don't get stuck on that.
Mm-hmm.
So all the stuff we're talking about in this podcast has everything to do with qualifying the house. It has nothing to do with qualifying your seller. So once you qualify your seller, you go out and look at the house, you can make these decisions that we're talking about today, right? So
right. There's no use bothering with the house if you can't get past the seller, some basic financing arrangements that you're willing or not willing to do. Why bother?
This is true.
We do that in commercial too. We don't look at the property until we're somewhere near ballpark where the money might work. Why look at the house if the money's not going to work?
Well, we don't want to waste our time.
Yeah, why bother? It's just too much to look at.
Right. So again, here's the magic. Like I said, we buy these houses expecting to do the work. So we make the math work that way. Then we sell it on a lease purchase and advertise it as a handyman special.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We do all the things we normally do when we lease a pretty house, except we give the buyer a little equity for doing the work. I'll explain that in a minute.
Sure.
Okay. And all we do is prehab it.
Mm.
Okay. Which simply means we go in and clean it and some very minor work.
Mm-hmm.
Like if a toilet doesn't work, you should make it work, right?
Yeah.
You should fix it. If the heat doesn't work, then fix it. Just functional type stuff, not cosmetics.
But we'll empty a house out that's like just kludged and nasty. So it's not right.
Yeah. So I want to make this point, okay? This is the magic and the pivotal point, or as they call the epicenter of wholetailing. This is it right here.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you do is functional things, not cosmetic things. A handyman special means that the guy doesn't need to be a contractor. He just needs to be a little handy. In fact, I have sold handyman specials to women that are not They're single moms because it was cosmetic, because they are able to paint the wall. They're able to hire a rug guy and put rugs down.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not trying to be chauvinistic here, but it's just to stress the point. So this is not the type of house where you want to pinpoint just a contractor.
Well, it'd be too limiting, wouldn't it? Because my thought as you go, and I want to get to this point at some point, like, who is your market for this? Because not everybody wants to do that. There's a lot of people that just want the house done. Fine. So your market for this can't be too narrow, or you won't be able to sell it this way. So it can't be a contractor, and it won't be the guy who wants it all fixed. So there's that in between, right?
Yes. So let's be real here for a second, Peter. Let's just talk. Let's just talk real shit, okay? So you agree that when we buy a property, it takes time, right?
Right.
Okay. So is it true that I'll sign a purchase and sales contract, and sometimes it's 3 or 4 weeks later before we close?
Yeah.
Is it true that the last deal I signed the purchase and sales contract, we did the title search, which took a week, okay? And we, meaning you and I, funded the deal.
Right.
And then it went how long? 2 more weeks?
Before we started work on it?
No, before we closed. It was like another 2 weeks.
I thought it was longer because we had the title problem. Wasn't it longer?
I took care of the title. We funded the deal. And then we went, I think, 2 or 3 more weeks before we closed, right? Because of the lawyers and all that stuff, right? Then once we close, and you could do this, depending on how good you are, you could do some of this prior to your closing. But you're going to have to figure out contractors and dumpsters and landscapers and roofers, and right? So that takes time.
Yeah.
Here's my point. While you're doing all of that, is it horrible that you would advertise this puppy as being a handyman special?
No, if you got the right deal and you made enough money, why go through all the aggravation of doing all the work when someone else would? And if it didn't work out, like if you don't find the right buyer at the right price, you can continue with plan A or B, however you're looking at it, and renovate it yourself. So since you set the numbers up for rehab, you can go either way.
Right. And that's my point. My point is that every house that you do, as long as it's livable and you have these criteria we're talking about, the first thing you should do is get it on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. And we use Let Go these days too. But, you get it on there as a handyman special, because while you're preparing to do the work, you might find a handyman special guy or girl. So it should be done on every property you buy like this. It should not be like a this or a that. It should just be while you're waiting to get ready to do the renovations, because it's always weeks, maximally a month.
Yeah.
Right. It just happens that way from the time you get through your closing and you get your contractors lined up, and you got to buy insurance, and these things all take time. So while you're doing that, the house is more than likely vacant. You make arrangements with your seller that you can show the house. You say, can I show the house to my contractors and a few other potential people that I might want to sell, I might want to sell to, or whatever you say to them. Right? They'll always say yes, because especially if it's a probate house, it's vacant anyways. Put a lockbox on the front door.
Even before the closing.
Yeah.
So I have a question, and I've been through a few of these videos, and I have a feeling for what you like or don't like. But do you have any parameters, like if the renovation would make $40,000 or $50,000, how much you're willing to accept on a handyman's wholesale instead of doing all the work? How much would you accept as a profit instead of 40 or 50? What's your number that makes you feel comfortable to avoid all the work?
Peter, that's a phenomenal question. I didn't even think of putting that in the podcast. It's a phenomenal question. The formula is money now, money monthly, money later. So let's go to an example deal, right? So just because this is, I mean, it's been a while since I've done this type of a deal mostly because of the pandemic, but Liberty Street.
Yeah.
Okay. So I bought this property for 110 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Was worth 260.
Mm.
So why did I buy this property for 110 when it was worth 260?
Because you're smart.
Yeah. Okay, if you want to say that.
You're a good
Tell my mother that, would you? So anyways, here's the reason why. The lady that owned it was an author. She was an elderly person. She actually died in the house. Okay, I mean, they took her away, but she lived in the house till the day she passed away.
Yeah.
It had 40 or 50 years worth of stuff in the house.
Yeah.
She hadn't done any landscaping, and I would guess 10 years, maybe 20. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Had no kids, and willed the house to her brother, who lived in Georgia.
Mm.
And he flew up here twice to deal with the house. And when he walked around the house, what did he see? All her stuff.
Yeah. A lot
Overgrown bushes. He then got, I think, overwhelmed.
Mm.
Okay. I tell him, we negotiate. I think he was asking 140. We ended up landing on 110 because I tell him, I'll take it the way it is. Just send me a key. Matter of fact, you don't even have to send me a key because Peter will crawl through the window once we push out the air conditioner.
We'll just push the air conditioner in. And I'll just
go to Facebook. You can watch that video. We had no key for this house, so I convinced Peter. You know, I'm 55 at the point. He's 68 or something like that, and I convinced him to crawl through the window because he's littler than I am. So we pushed the air conditioner.
I could fit, Bill.
Yeah, because you could fit. You push the air conditioner in the window or pulled it out of the window or whatever we did. And I grab a hold of his feet and heave ho. In goes Peter. And we videoed it, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I bought it for 110, figuring it needed 60 grand for work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The true driver in this deal for me was we had just had a bad experience with a contractor up in Plainville, right? And I'm wondering who we're going to use for a contractor. And that was like, okay, I can get through that. But the house was 45 minutes away from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking every day I got to go down to this property or every other day. And though I would love the hour and a half time in my car smoking a cigar, that's going to kill my schedule.
Yeah.
Right. And I had just come off of a renovation where I wasn't paying attention and it cost me like 20 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, that was another fairly long drive.
Right.
Yeah.
So I figured the house needs $60,000 worth of work. And I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to do this? So what I did is we prehabbed it. I think I spent like 7 grand or 8 grand. We'll say it's 7,500. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did is I hired a guy for, I think, $5,000 to go in and clean it. They emptied the house.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I had a couple dumpsters. I think I had 2 or 3 30-yard dumpsters, right? Which were at the time like $500 or $600 a piece. And these guys went in, a crew of guys, in the course of 2 or 3 days, and they just emptied the house. Took all the contents out of the house. Right?
Yeah.
Then he subcontracted a guy to come cut trees in the bushes. I didn't do any landscaping. All I did was just cut everything out. I took everything away so that it could start over, so the landscaping could start over. But I had a clean slate. Right? So the yard had a clean slate.
It's just less scary. You know, people look at that. It's just scary looking.
Right. So we cut down a bunch of trees.
Good.
The grass was like 2 feet tall, so they cut the grass. There was a built-in swimming pool in the backyard. So I had them take the cover off the built-in swimming pool. And it had green water in it. I didn't have them clean the water. What I had them do is I had them clean the pool, like, you know, skim all the, you know, all the algae and all that kind of stuff. And then I just took a couple gallons of whatever pH, whatever for swimming pools, and I just Yeah, and I just dumped it in the pool and I put the cover back on. Okay. That cost, we'll say $7,500. I prehabbed it. All I did was clean it.
Yeah.
Then I sent my cleaning girls in. I think it was $400 or $500 to clean it. Right. So, what was the product of the cleaning girls?
To make it not gross and not
I
stink.
spent $400 or $500 to make it so it smells girlier, a little bit better. From the cleaning products. So at least there's bleach and the floor wax they use. The floors were beyond wax, but I still had them wax the floors just for the smell. Okay. Now watch this. I borrowed $15,000 to do the rehab or the prehab. Okay. So I borrowed $15,000 plus the $110,000 to buy the property. So I borrowed $125,000. You with me?
I'm following.
I do the prehab. I spend $7,500. So $15,000 minus 75 is how much, Peter?
Sounds like you have 7,500 left over.
So now I'm excited about making these 45-minute rides smoking my cigar, because how much money am I going to make in about a week?
I don't mean the 75 or something beyond that.
No, the 7,500.
Yeah, the 7,500, sure.
Because I borrowed 15 and I spent 7,500, so I'm making $7,500 for a week's worth of work.
Yeah, you borrowed some extra, so you have some cash now.
It was for reserves, but if I'm good at my job, I get to keep the reserves, right?
Yeah.
So the house is worth $260. Because I have so much equity in it, I could sell it to my owner for $230, give him $30,000 worth of equity. Right. And I do that because what I do is I tell him that if he fixes it up, it'll appraise for the $260. So he could pick up that extra $30,000 when he takes his mortgage.
Yeah.
He can either use that for down payment money, or he can just borrow less money and drop his mortgage down, or he could just borrow that extra $30,000 for doing the work. Right? Because who's he buying the house from?
Either you or the bank.
Me.
Yeah.
So when he goes to buy the house and within his 2-year period, who's going to write the purchase and sales contract?
You would.
So could I put $260 on the contract?
Oh, sure.
Right? And then just give him $30,000 or whatever, give him money back. I could absolutely do that. I mean, it's a little technical how you do it, but you could do that. Right?
Right. But because he's going to renovate it and it will be worth that. It's not worth that now.
Right.
But that's the whole point.
Actually, the way to do it is he would take the mortgage for me for $220, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. And then he could take an equity line for the rest. That's the right way to do it. Okay. All right. So the buyer comes along, gives me $10,000. So he paid $230. He gives me $10,000 down, plus the first month's rent. Okay. So he gave me $12,300 down because I charged him $2,300 a month. Right.
Right.
Now he owes me $220. So how much do I owe my mortgage? How much did I borrow?
$125.
And he owes me how much?
$220.
What's the difference?
$95.
Yes, sir. 95 big ones.
And I'm telling you, I think of that house once in a while. It's like my buddy Bill is going to make a bunch of money pretty soon, and he'll be so grateful I climbed through the window. He might buy me a lobster dinner.
Oh, so basically you're telling me if I paid you to go through the window, I could have bought you McDonald's.
No.
But with the interest, it would be a lobster dinner. Is that how this is?
Something like that, yes.
This is an option for lunch.
That's right.
Pay now or pay later.
Hey, hasn't it been a couple of years? Where's the money?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about it the other day when I was writing about it. I'm like, I gotta go look at that deal because I think he's got to pay me.
You know what? I think of that. I bet you I think of that more than you do. I know you.
I know, absolutely you do, because I don't think about it at all.
You're up running the next one again. I got $90,000 coming. I wouldn't be asleep at night. It's like tomorrow's the second year. Anyways, go check on that. I'm hungry for more lobster.
Here's the interesting math game, okay? Like I said, I borrowed 125, sold for 230, and because the numbers are so different, 125, $100,000 difference, what's that going to do automatically for you? The cash flow is built in because if you borrow 125,000 at 5%, and lend 230,000 at 5%, what's the difference in the payment? It automatically has cash flow in it because I borrowed for a lower number and sold for a higher number. So the cash flow alone is immense. Right? So watch this. I got $10,000 now from the deposit.
Yeah.
Right? I got $7,500 from the prehab. So the day he moved in, I had $17,500 in my pocket.
And I did get a lobster roll at least that time.
Yes, you did. Plus, I got $1,000 a month positive cash flow.
And that's why you're not worried about how soon you sell it, is it?
I like the cash flow more than the 95,000.
Well, the longer you hold it, the more you're going to make, right? You keep getting that 1,000. That's not rent money. I mean, that's not like house money. That's just rental. That's
living money. That pays my mortgage.
Yeah. So you're okay letting this thing ride. That's right. Huh?
So 24 months gives us $24,000 because I signed a 24-month contract with him, right?
Yeah.
So 17.5 for the prehab money, $24,000 for the cash flow for 24 months, plus $95,000 gives us 136. Now wait a minute, Peter. Wait a minute. Johnny, are you paying attention right now, Johnny? I bought a house for $110,000. Yeah. Peter's holding up his calculator. I bought a house for $110,000 and I made 136. And wait a minute. Do I have to worry about the contractor wondering how much money I'm going to make? And when he sees that I'm making money, the next contract he's going to raise his price because he wants part of the gig? Do I have to go there every single day and check on it? Do I have to babysit these guys?
Nope.
Huh? So, by the way, if you're wondering about my cigar smoking episodes of going back and forth, I decided to go to the smoke shop and just smoke them there. I don't need to drive back and forth. Johnny says he's here. Do you get that, Johnny? $136,000 on a house that I paid for $110,000.
Bill, is that your best deal?
No.
I think that's one of the best ones I've seen.
Yeah, but we're not done yet, Peter, because we're talking to me.
Keep going.
Watch this. If the seller doesn't do the repairs, okay, he doesn't do the repairs and cash me out, I still have $135,000 in equity. Right, the 260 minus the 125. Right, to do the repairs and maybe do this deal all over again.
Well, you could do another handyman special, or you can do the renovation if you want at any time because the numbers are stagnant. It's on hold in a sense because it's a lease option to buy. The numbers are the same, no?
Right. I borrowed the money at 125 for 5 years and wholetailed or leased it for 2 years. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Do I have to worry about that guy doing that work?
No, he has to.
Why am I not worried about it? What happens if he trashes the place?
It was kind of trashed when you got it. I mean,
so what's it going to cost me? A couple extra $1,000 to go in and fix? I'm already planning on a $60,000 renovation.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm not done yet, Peter. When I wrote the option contract to sell, so who gets that contract? The buyer.
Yeah.
So I wrote an option contract to sell to the buyer. It has one little paragraph in it that says this. If you execute this option on or before month 12, you pay $230,000. If you don't, the price elevates 0.5% per month.
Per month.
Which is from month 13 to 24, which is 12 months. That's an additional 6% if it goes to 2 years.
Of the purchase price.
Of the 230.
The 230. Yeah, the price you
So he's already passed his year, so he's into the point where he's paying 0.5% per year elevated number.
Per month.
Per month.
So 6% a year. So 6% of 230.
13.8.
1380.
13.8. Which puts me now not at $136,000, but it puts me at $149,800 for total profit.
That's crazy.
Without any monthly late fees that I could charge, which are $125 a month. So the 149,000. So let's just say it's $149,800. Let's just say a couple months I'm going to charge them late fees. It's $150,000.
Yep.
Pretty amazing, right?
It's crazy. The crazy thing is that you have to wait a little bit for all that money to come in, but you're making the 1,000 cash flow on top of what you made in the beginning. And the longer you wait, the more you're going to make. It's not terrible. Like, it's not capped. You're making that 1,000 extra month waiting. No wonder you don't worry about it.
Right.
I mean, me, I like 95,000. I want it now, but whatever. You'll get it one way or the other. And if he doesn't perform, so honestly, the guy's been pretty good. I think I remember once it was late once or twice, but he's been paying. So the couple of years is up right now. What would you do if he hasn't?
Because I'm in Florida and I don't have his file. I do know that when I go back, I'm going to be back home in a couple of weeks. The first thing I'm going to do is send him a letter and saying, what's the deal?
You're ready to go.
Yeah, so I'll squeeze him and tell him if he doesn't have a mortgage in 3 months, then he's going to have to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So my question is, I know sometimes on these, if the person needs more time and he's been paying well, maybe you'll wait a little bit longer. So you'd give him like 3 months.
Yeah, I should have done it months ago. But you are right.
I'll remind you next time.
Yeah, I don't pay enough attention to this. You think I would pay attention to $100,000, but.
Yeah, but you're okay still. You're still making 1,000 every month the longer the thing goes. So I would guess that if he was toward the end of really renovating it and he was close to having it ready, you would give him a little more time. And if he hadn't done crap, you'd say, that's it. You got to go.
First thing I should do is drive by the house. I don't think I've been out there in a year and a half.
I'll go with you, Bill. That lobster shack is right on the shore. What? Hey, the last lobster roll cost me $130. I went to the fancy freaking place up here, the landlocked place. It's cheaper down the ocean, especially when I get you to pay. So you drive by the house and just take a look at it. You can get an idea, right?
I'll tell you what. I'll buy the lobster. You buy the cigars.
Hey, I'll tell you what. No.
All right.
Hey, I'm going down the shore tomorrow. You want me to drive by? I was in Clinton 2 weeks ago. I was driving through. I almost thought but I couldn't remember the address and how to get there. But if you need me to go,
it's over by the Clinton crossings. All right.
Yeah.
So before we end off, which I guess today we're going to have a shorter podcast, right? I wanted to list the steps for this strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's do that. So we're going to list the steps for wholetailing.
Well, can I ask you a question before you go there? Just money wise, you own this property. I know you bought it. You didn't put money in because you leased it from somebody. You have no time restraints on this thing, right?
I do because I have a 5-year mortgage from an IRA. I have a 5-year balloon mortgage.
Okay, that's the restriction. Okay, but you could go the 5 years then. If this guy doesn't perform, put another guy in and keep collecting the $1,000 a month, and now you're up to $170,000 on the house or some crazy number.
Right. and you're kind of bouncing around the real question, like how do I get the cash flow? The cash flow is that way because I still owe the 125 grand. It's not a principal reduction loan. I'm just paying interest only on my loan.
Yeah.
So I pay 800. The guy lent me $125, 125,000, and I pay him $833.33 every month. So he gets $833 a month times 12 times 5 for lending me 125 grand.
That sounds kind of high a month. Is that 9%?
9%?
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Well, and what do you care? You're making $1,000 cash flow. So
if we were in the car right now, I'd be using the F word. I'd be using the F word. Pete, what the? What?
Yeah.
You're making $1,000. You're making $150,000. You're worried about paying some guy the difference between $600 and $800 a month. Without that guy, I couldn't have done this deal.
No, it's just the automatic response we get in our heads because we're paying our own mortgages and interest and credit cards, and anything high goes But and mixed into the deal, no, it's great. So my point was just that if you actually wind up holding it a little longer, up to the 5 years, you get another $1,000. So it's $170,000 deal if it were to happen. Not a terrible thing.
Right. So I have a decision to make. And I made this decision some years ago. I could be like those people you're talking about right now where they want to pay 9%, right? And we did a whole episode on this. Like when your economics or when life, like you're going along in a normal condition, right? And all of a sudden it starts to slip, like this pandemic did it. Like you're going along and you're making $1,000 a week, right? And then all of a sudden this pandemic comes along and you have to stay home and now you're making $600 a week on unemployment.
Yeah.
Making up these numbers, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So you make $600 a week. So most people, when they go into that, what we call the emergency state or slip down a little bit from the normal operating basis, right? Go into an economize.
Yeah.
Where you and I have been taught differently that you definitely need to economize, but the first thing you need to do is outflow.
First thing you need to do is ramp it up, make more money, work harder, do something.
Promote
and produce.
Get out there and make sure that people know what you do. And then once you start getting money in, you start to economize because you do have some issues that you got to deal with while you're in emergency.
Right.
So when I hear you say that, the people that I'm talking to are the people that are like 9%, oh my God, they're trying to expense their way into a profit. They're trying to cut their expenses so much that they can make money. And I'm going to tell you right now, you watch businesses that do this or be part of businesses and they start cutting payroll. I'm going to tell you the number one thing that I see all the time because I'm a marketing guy and I've worked for companies and been paid thousands and thousands of dollars a month to do their marketing. When money goes down, the first thing they chop is the marketing.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand it. And I'm going to tell you this. They should chop their marketing. You want to know why?
Yeah, why?
Because it's not working for them or they don't understand it. So good well, actually that's advertising. Marketing is another story, but that's they cut their advertising budgets. They should have marketing campaigns instead of advertising budgets. But my point is this. That would be like me going and telling the guy that's paying me $1,000 a month to get out. Why would I cut off the hand that feeds me?
Yeah.
So if you have a good marketing department or know what you're doing with marketing, you would realize that marketing doesn't cost you money. It's an investment.
It makes you money.
So people that are in real estate investing like you and I are not in the real estate investing business. We're in the marketing business. We're constantly looking for sellers. We're constantly looking for buyers, and we're constantly looking for money and contractors. Right?
Or handyman.
So, yeah. So the point that I'm trying to make is if I knew I could spend $1,000 and find a deal like this, what am I going to do? I'm not going to cut that off. I'm not going to go, cut that off to spite my face.
Mm-hmm.
Cut my nose off to spite my face type of thing, right?
Right.
I'm going to figure out how many more $1,000 I can get so I can find these types of deals.
Yep.
So when I say that people that cut their advertising budget, the advertising is not doing nothing for them anyways because they're not impinging upon the people that they're talking to. And a short story, I know I'm off on a tangent here, but in a short story, I'm going to tell you that 90 to 95% of any marketing campaign's problem is who they're talking to.
Mm.
And one of the most basic criteria, like undercut everything on marketing, is are they talking to a crowd that wants to believe?
Mm.
Do they want to believe that you can help them? Or do they have another solution? That's what we do with the prospect suspect thing. Do they want to believe that we can close in 10 days or 30 days? Or do they want to believe that we can give them debt relief? Or do they want to believe that they can rent their house and become an investor, because we showed them how to do it, and become the bank? In other words, the for sale by owner that sells on owner financing. Does he want to believe that he could turn this asset into a paying, viable investment? Because really, Pete, at the end of the day, that's what we do.
Yeah.
What we do is we take our sellers and turn them into investors. They have an asset that's underperforming. We're going to be their portfolio manager, and we're going to come in and we're going to take their portfolio, known as 123 Main Street, and turn it into a profit for them.
Yep.
I've actually
said to people on the phone, says, no, you have a house. You could keep it and make more money on it. Some people wish they had a house. They're trying to get a house so they could make money on it. You already have one. If you hang on to it, we'll help you turn it into an investment. Why throw it away when you can, like this house in Liberty Street? The longer you keep it, what the hell? You're still making money on it. So why get rid of it quick? If you had rehabbed it, you would have made less money.
Right. Yeah, and I would have had a whole lot more work and a whole lot more aggravation.
Yep.
Right. Now, when you get into a position, I don't want to say like I am, but you get into a position at some point in Kiyosaki said it best. How do you become wealthy? What's the definition of wealth? Well, he described it, I think, in Rich Dad Poor Dad. It might have been Cash Flow Quadrant. I think it was Cash Flow Quadrant. He talks about if you have $4,000 worth of bills, have enough assets, right? Assets, because that's where you spend money, is on assets, not on liabilities, because assets gain money, liabilities cost you money, right? Have enough assets to produce $6,000 a month. And if you only have to work 5 or 10 hours a month or 20 hours a month or not at all, you're rich. You have an asset that gives you $6,000 a month and you only need 4.
Yep.
So that means it doesn't matter if you're in Florida helping your mom during her hip operation, like I am right now. I could work a few hours a day. Now, am I building my portfolio? No. Am I buying houses? Not enough. Am I doing the things I'm supposed to be doing to build my wealth? No. But I'm able to sustain my lifestyle by just keep collecting my rents.
Yeah.
Right? It allowed me to leave Connecticut. I did it in March for 5 weeks. I came to Florida. And now I've been here. This is my 5th week, and I'm probably gonna be here 6 weeks. Right? I was able to take 6 weeks and come to Florida and live with my sister. Now I'm still working and I'm still doing things, right? But I'm doing things for my training, not for my house business. Right? So Kiyosaki says the way to be wealthy, you don't need millions of dollars. Right? So with that said, Peter, here's my question. Why do I want to do a rehab and get $25,000? Why do I want to do that?
Exactly. And that was my
Because
question at the beginning of the podcast. How do you decide if you want to rehab it and sell it, or what's the profit margin to hold on to it? And I think your
so
answer was you're making more money doing this.
no, let's talk about this for a second. So you have a job and you want to replace your job.
Mm-hmm.
Say that job makes you $75,000 a year for 2,000 hours of your labor per year.
Yep.
So that means you have to give up 2,000 hours a year to get to 75 grand. What you do on that 2,000 hours is another story.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to give up 2,000 hours of your precious personal creative time. Okay? To get that $75,000. Okay. So if you want to replace that $75,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to do that? Flipping a house, making 25 grand a year.
Making 25 per house?
Yeah. How are you going to do that?
You'd have to do 3 houses a year. And that's not, some guys can do that, but for most people, that's not easy to find them to do that.
You can't do that. You're lying, Peter.
Why?
You're lying because you can't do it on 3 houses a year. That's not enough. Because if you're making $75,000 a year, that means your employer is paying about 25% in taxes, Social Security, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Plus you got your insurance benefits. Plus you got your vacation. You got to do 4 or 5 houses a year to get the same money.
That's right. Us self-employed guys get hit, but we also get some benefits.
Now,
see your local accountant.
Now here's my point. By making that decision that you want to flip houses, all you're doing is taking that 2,000 hours a year and taking it from something you may not like to do to something you think you might want to do. But I'm telling you, after a year or two, it's going to get boring and it's going to be just like where you are right now.
Yeah.
Where you could change one thing in your mind, you could shift one decision in your head and say, I need to figure out how to do, well, how much, you got the calculator here. What's 100 grand? Well, 100 grand divided by 2,000 hours. Forget that. You need to make $1,000 a week. No, $2,000 a week to make 100 grand, right?
Yeah. Because we get 2 weeks vacation, don't we?
Right. So $2,000 a week times 4 is $8,000 a month.
Yep.
So you got to figure out how you can get how many rental properties do you need to make $8,000 a month?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
To replace that income.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what you need to do is you need to think to yourself, okay, so I could make $400 a door or $300 a door, right?
Mm-hmm.
So divide 8,000 by say $400 a door, which is a tall number, but
20.
So you got to have 20 rents coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or you could do a deal like this and have 8. So when you're deal hunting, you have to have your plan in place. Like, what is my objective?
Mm.
Do I go look for probate deals and try to do this type of a deal? And I'm not saying just do this and nothing else, but emphasize on this. Your marketing plan has to attract the type of house that will give you the type of money that you need to make to solve your problem.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not doing that process and you're not thinking about those things, which is why I say, why do I want to do a $25,000 rehab?
Mm.
I do them, right? The last rehab, how much did we make?
We cleared 75.
Huh?
We cleared 75,000.
I thought it was 93.
I think after everything was maybe gross. I mean, in our pockets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
I have a check on the wall for my. Wait a minute. Did you keep more?
No, I believe it. I don't remember. So
yeah,
you're right. It was probably gross money because we probably paid some stuff off. So 73,000.
75.
75,000. So all it was what? Was my decision making on what we should or shouldn't do, because we sold that house and had a $40,000 wholesale profit, right?
For a week or two, while we were
38,000.
waiting, I had guys coming through. They were offering, tens of thousands just to take it as is.
Right.
Yeah.
So knowing the plan on what it was, now could we have made a whole lot more money with that house? Yes. We could have leased it for 5 years and made a whole lot more money, but we for whatever reason we decided to take the $75,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's one house. That's one house. That's one house. That took us 5 months. One house. But that's also 5 months worth of work.
Mm.
Right? How about this house? This house that I'm talking about in today's podcast took me a week.
From the time you grabbed it, from the time it was done, I think it was like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, the entirety of it, right?
Right. That was the closing and everything, yeah. Right? But look what it spits off for money. So all I'm saying is the point that I'm trying to emphasize, and I'm way off on a tangent here. The point that I'm trying to emphasize here is that you have to think about these things. And you go in, you're so excited, and I know you do this, Peter. You're so excited about a $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 check because you're not used to seeing those checks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you think that's a lot of money, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
Truth of the matter is that the real money is the reoccurring money. I read a book one time, and I wish I could find this. I've looked for this one afternoon. I spent an hour looking for this, and I couldn't look for this. I wish I could find it because I would like to give credit to who I read it from. But the true way to build wealth is by how many people pay you. That's real wealth. How many people pay? How many people pay Amazon? Why is he so wealthy? Because he's got a shit ton of people paying him.
Yeah.
Why does Donald Trump have so much money? Because he's got people paying him for royalties to use his name.
Mm.
Donald Trump builds a skyscraper with all these apartments in it and these fancy things, right? He doesn't make his money on the real estate. He makes his money by putting his name on the top of the building, and they have to pay him royalties.
Hmm.
The building is just a place for him to park his name so he can collect his royalties.
Name recognition, brand.
Trump Plaza, Trump Golf Course, Trump Airport, whatever. That's why he ran for president, as far as I'm concerned, is he was trying to make his name. I don't think he thought he was going to make it. In the beginning.
He tried a few times before. I thought it was a joke, like a TV stunt.
And all he was trying to do is he was trying to get on the presidential candidate lineup so he can get more money for his name, for his royalties.
Mm.
Well, he's at the top of the rung now because he can't get any more popular than what he is right now. Love him or hate him, you know him.
Yeah.
Right? He's a common household name.
Well, Bill, what I like about all your strategies is a person can determine what they really need. Because sometimes for me, I need some chunks of money to catch up with some debt or whatever that is. But as that calms down, I'm very much in favor of cash flow. But you can adjust depending on what your scene is right now. Like I got over leveraged at one point. Oh crap! My wife borrowed $30,000 and didn't tell me for a year. Then I find out after I did about 40 on something. Like, wait a minute, and we managed, but like I wanted to get those down. So the way you have all your strategies and your 7 offers plus wholesaling and everything else that makes it, 42 offers when you mix them, whatever it is, you can adjust for what you need.
Pete, that is so right. That is so right. But you're skimming around what you really should be saying. The reason why and I'm nothing wrong with what you're saying. It's 100% correct. The reason why my system works is because you don't make the decision. I want to go out and be a wholesaler. I want to go out and be I want to go out and do lease options. No.
You don't pick.
No, I do pick, but I pick them after I get the deal. Once I get the deal, I say, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to wholesale it? Am I going to wholesale it? Am I going to retail it? Am I going to lease option it? What am I going to do with it? But I do it after I get the deal. I don't do it beforehand. So I cast a big wide net. I pull the net in, and I decide which fish I want to keep and which ones I want to throw back.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of how I do it. And I've been that way for 18 plus years.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Dan Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yep. Dan Kennedy wrote in a newsletter that I read 20 years ago. do not, and I violate this all the time now, but do not create a product, an information product, and then go sell it. Do not do that. What you do is you sell the product, and if you get orders, you develop it. So if you sell a product, in fact, right now, if you're on my email list, I'm seriously considering doing another coaching call just for deal hunting. So I sent out a survey, like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Right. And I already know, because I looked at it last night, and I haven't looked at it yet today, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to do it because I got enough response. I didn't get a lot of response, but I got enough. I'll send another email today and probably tomorrow, right? And just to make sure. But the point is the houses are the same way. Get the houses first, and then figure out what you're going to do with them.
Right. Yeah, because we've seen people come to meetups like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Oh, yeah. Is the seller willing to do that? Duh.
Right.
The guy says no. What are you going to tell him, that he's wrong? They just no. So you have to be flexible enough. You're talking about being flexible. We haven't talked about that in a while. You have to be flexible enough to be able to do whatever you can get done, and you'll get more deals that way. And you can morph your business depending on what your needs are at the time.
And the magic formula that seems so simple is money now, money monthly, and money later.
Right.
And when you could do deals that do all three, they're hierarchy in your machine.
Yeah.
Right. Now here's the last thing I'm gonna say, and then we'll move on. I forgot, so I guess we're all set. I was gonna say something. Yeah, I get distracted. So money now, money monthly, money later. Some need money now, and that's all they're focused on. Just like our sellers, our students are the same way. Right?
Yeah.
So you, Peter, in your life and your decisions want cash. So you're the seller that puts a house on the market and wants his chunk of dough now. I'm the seller that is like, okay, I'll be willing to take monthly payments. How does that work? Right? Some of my investors are like, yeah, I'll take money later. How much am I going to make? So it works the other way. So our investors listening to us right now are in one of those categories: money now, money monthly, money later. Problem is that too many people think they're going to get out of the trap by getting money now, and realize that all they're doing is replacing their job.
Yep.
Because they don't like being a contractor anymore. They want to just work on flipping houses because that seems fun to them. That's what they want to do. That's what they're excited about. That's what's driven them. That's their new thing. Well, when you were younger, Peter, and you got a new girlfriend, what happened? You were all excited, right? All you could think about was that girlfriend, right? You went out and had a good time, but after a while, what happened?
You get married, you work together, you're busy.
You and Mary been together for what, 90 years now?
92.
It's not like it was when you first started dating, right?
No, but I still try. No, I'm gonna get. We're headed down to the shore tomorrow. We're gonna go somewhere.
Good. So it's the same way. So yeah, it's all fancy and it sounds all good because it's gonna get so I don't know how to say this, but so are you like running away from something or running to something? So if you're a contractor and you want to like start doing real estate, you're running away from something.
Right.
If you want to run to something, then you're going to pay more attention to the monthly cash flow and replacing your income and having a plan and working on it for a year or two. Right? Because I get clients that ask me, how long will it take for me to like do this? Well, what is your plan? You want $25,000 in a chunk of dough? We could do that in a month, maybe two. Do you want to replace, $200,000 worth of income or 50?
Yep.
There's variables.
Yep. And how much time you're willing to put into it, you can. But it's going the right track. Personally, I like the big chunks to handle some backlog of stuff. But then I'm very much interested, because of my age, partly, in the cash flow and equity. So I have some money now, and I have some money monthly, and I have some good equity coming in down the line. And I'm building equity in property. So future wise, like it makes me comfortable. Like,
So what's the sense in having all that equity? To buy more properties, to get more cash flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Not to buy a car. Not to go on vacation.
Oh, wait a minute. Back up on that one, buddy. As he says, he's not really on vacation, but damn you're in Florida.
I am not working 75 hours a week like I was. That's for sure. I think I work about 6 or 7 hours a day, which to me is like a half a day. All right, let's close up with the steps for this strategy called wholesaling. Number 1, you find a property you can buy for a wholesale or rehab price, which is 60 to 70% of a pretty house or after renovated value.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if the house was pretty, it would be worth $200,000. That means you got to buy it for 60 or 70% of $200,000 minus repairs. You put the house, once you find it, you put the house under the contract. Number 2. Number 3, you borrow money from preferably a private lender, which means somebody with IRA money. And the reason why you do that is because when you borrow from IRA money, that money in the person's mind that has it is stale. Because they can't use it till they're 60 or 70 or whatever years old. Right. So like, for example, I know people that are in their 40s and their 50s and their husband and wives, and they had good careers for 20 years, and they each have, $500,000-$600,000 each in an IRA. So they've got $1 million in an IRA because they stayed with a company for 20 years or 25 years. Yep. They're in their late 40s, early 50s, right? There's a lot of those people. Yeah. So they got $500,000 in an IRA. They can lend you that money for 4 years. They can lend you $110,000 and have you pay them $833 a month.
Yeah, and build their their account up. Right. It's more than they're getting with the money just sitting there collecting a little bit of whatever.
So think of it this way: $9,000 a year times 5 years is how much?
45.
So my guy lent me $125 and got back $45,000. And you know what he did? About 3 pieces of paper so he could direct the IRA money. We worked together for about a week on a closing, and that's it. He's done nothing else. He's collected checks.
Just investing. He
made $45,000 in about we'll say a month's worth of work. It was really about a week or 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's just paperwork. I mean, I have an IRA. I use it for little things for myself right now, but it's just paperwork. You send a form, you make a phone call, you send a form, you write a check.
So Peter, just like we're talking about with the marketing for sellers, if you have a person that has an IRA, right,
mm-hmm.
and they want to believe they could make more money with their IRA, are they going to listen to you?
Yeah.
Do you have to beg that person? Do you have to beg that person? Do you have to convince them to make $45,000?
Hey, you want to make extra? You want to make more money than you are right now? No, please don't do that.
Right. So you are a guy, you are a person in their life they're going to be able to put their money in real estate, which is the most secure thing ever
mm-hmm.
for investing. It's better than the stock market, and make $45,000 for a week or two's worth of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean a week or two. I'm just talking about, dealing with it for a week or two. I'm probably talking about maybe 5 hours worth of work, if that.
No, it's paperwork. You send a form, you talk to the guy, you write a check, and you authorize the check to go. They send it for you.
You don't have to go beg for this kind of money.
No.
Okay. So you go borrow the money. That's step number 3. Number 4, you do the prehab work. You go in, you clean it up, you get the dumpsters, you fix the sink. Oh yeah, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing you do in a prehab?
Make sure the toilet works and put toilet paper there for the women.
Flunk, Peter.
I don't.
You put a for sale sign out front.
Oh. Yeah.
Soon as you know the house is yours, make sure you put a for sale sign out front. Let people know. Yep. House for sale. No beg qualifying. Hello. There you go. Now that the prehab work is done, you deposit your leftover rehab money into HIP National Bank. Yep, my favorite bank.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, find a buyer willing to do the handyman special for a discount. Number 7, collect your monthly cash flow. Number 8, when the buyer gets a favorable mortgage, close and get your money later. And then, of course, number 9, rinse and repeat.
Yep.
Right? Last point I want to make before we go, Peter. This is why I say the day I realized I could make more money on the defaults instead of the money coming in, it changed my life. If my buyer doesn't get his or her loan, he defaults, and here's what happens. 1, you keep the deposit money. So I keep the 10 grand. If my guy defaults in this house, I keep the 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
I kept the cash flow, the $1,000 a month.
That was rent. It's gone.
Right. I cleaned the property up again. Right. I still have $75,000. I might have spent it, but I still have $7,500 and prehab money that I didn't use. Right.
Yeah, but did the guy do some work on it? I mean, he must have done something.
Usually they do.
To move the house forward. He couldn't just, if he's be a slob about it, he would have made some improvements already.
Right. So you clean it up a little bit, right? And you rent it again and do it all over again because I got 5 years on my mortgage. Oh, yeah, by the way, do I have 5 years on my mortgage or don't I?
Well, everything's negotiable, no?
I have 5 years with that guy. You think it's possible I can find somebody else that will put that money up in a 5-year period and I could go for another 5 more years?
Yeah, especially last guy made 45,000. Would you like to make 45,000? Sure.
See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now here's what happens. I can't explain this at the end of the podcast because we need to get out of here because we're 2 minutes over point. Here's what happens. When you think like this, that you want to make money on the default because you make more profit, what I realize is it takes the neediness away of people paying you every month. Because if you have your attention on, Peter, all your debt, you keep thinking, oh, I got all these bills I got to pay, all these bills I got to pay, I got to pay all these bills, I got to pay all these bills. That's all you think about is all these bills I got to pay. What are you going to get more of?
More bills.
Those bills. What you need to put your attention on is you need to put your attention on how am I going to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
So you take all those bills and you put them aside and you work. And then when it's time for you to deal with those bills, you deal with them. Where your attention goes, energies flow, results show.
That's right.
So if your attention goes on finding these deals, then that's what you'll get. But more importantly, to this point right now, if your attention's on defaults, you don't want to put there that he's going to default. You're like, well, if he defaults, I'll make more money. It takes the neediness away from you getting that money every month. And here's what happens. Once you take the neediness away, right, and you take the I have to have it off of it, guess what happens? They pay.
I bet it runs smoother.
They pay.
Yeah.
I don't think every month I hope my tenants are going to pay me. I hope I have enough money for the rent. I hope I can pay my mortgage. First reason why is I practice what I preach because I got a bunch of dough in an account that I put aside, and I do every month put money in there, so that if somebody doesn't pay, I have a reserve account with tens of thousands of dollars in it.
Yeah.
Right. So 2 months ago, when my tenant called me and said there was a leak, and I had to write the plumber a check for $2,300, I wasn't happy about it, but there was tens of thousands of dollars in this account. I just wrote it out of the account. I didn't think to myself, where am I going to get $2,300?
Yeah.
And guess what? It fixed the problem. My tenants are very happy, and they keep paying me because I take care of them.
Right.
When the tenant complains to me that the guy cut the grass and there's still, I have apartment buildings. That's what these are for. So when the tenant when they cut the grass, there was grass all over the sidewalk. I just text my guy and say, hey, go fix it.
Yeah.
I don't stress about it.
Mm-hmm. I think an analogy, if anybody owns property and you have like a bad tenant, because I had one, it's like, don't pay me. Get the hell out. I'll get a good tenant. So I had one bad tenant. I've had two great ones in a row. The money, cha-ching, comes and the phone goes cha-ching and the money shows up. No problem whatsoever. So if you have,
Peter, that's not fair when you say that. You have to say that the right way. So the tenant that you had was not under your decision. We bought that property with a bad tenant in it. The difference with your other two tenants is they live by our rules. We pre-screened them.
That's right.
We used our system, and there's a much different, so we worked and made sure the right tenant was in there. And then it wasn't like you got a bad tenant. We bought the property for a severe discount because of that guy.
And that's what we're willing to do. We're willing to take on a problem, fix it. So I never worried about it. Like, it cost me a few thousand. Like, who cares? Look at the big picture. Right. Now I got great tenants and it's fine. Right. So those things work out. The smartest thing you can do is turn adversity to your advantage, right? So every time I have a problem in my business, I think, how can I turn that to my advantage or avoid it next time? One or both. And then you just keep moving ahead.
All right, good. So remember, you can go into the description of wherever you found this podcast, and you can scroll down, and there's a link there that takes you to a bunch of free stuff. It takes you to our free stuff page, and there's 25 plus or about 25 free documents and videos and training that you can get. So just the link is inside of your description. I actually had my VA go back to all 213 podcasts, because we're on 214 right now, but she went back to all 213 podcasts in our system. It's not done on iTunes, but when you reload all the podcasts, it'll show up. So but the link is on all the podcasts and the blog. It's on there. And don't forget that we are broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. YouTube's the addition. So if you're a YouTube user, then you can go check us out there too. And just type in Flipping Houses for Rookies and you'll find us. Okay? Mm-hmm. Over and out. I got some pretty exciting stuff for next week, Peter. I have something that I'm not even going to tell you about till next week. But I have been thinking for about 10 days now, something that is going to change the industry. And it's simple. Yeah.
Nice.
So there's the cliffhanger. We're over and out. Thanks for being here.